right, you guys, it's Tasha MAMABEAR Prepping. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. You already know what time it is. Get your drink, pull up. I need this. It has been quite the eventful morning here in our household for homeschool schooling. So I'll leave that there, but it's been quite eventful. Speaking of eventful, I just want to discuss kind of what's going on right now with this new variant and start a dialogue with you guys in regards to things to expect and things that are gonna possibly be coming down the pipeline. Some stuff has already been discussed. Some stuff at the very end is very, very scary stuff. So you want to make sure that you stick around. I have about 10 items on here, you guys, that I think that we need to be paying attention to, because there's a lot of contradicting information out there in regards to, you know, how dangerous this variant is. You know, are we in danger? You know, what people are catching it and actually getting it? What are the symptoms? They're super mild so far, but there's all the speculation about whether stuff will work, not work. And it's almost like we're in full gear as if this is, you know, something major, right? And so, you know, I understand there's a lot of differences with this one, but it's a little disheartening to be hearing so much misinformation and contradictions out there for us to understand what's going on. What I think you're not going to see stop is the media presence in regards to pushing this agenda and pushing that this is something to be scared of and fearful of. And so let's get into what I think is going to happen next, right? And at the end, I'll let you know kind of what to do. But this is what I think. I think that government overreach is going to continue to be a thing. And an example of that would be these recent bills that are being passed or trying to be passed, right, that would determine if the government shuts down or not, being threatened with the fact of, hey, if you don't vote for this, you know, or we're not going to vote for this stuff and pass certain things if you don't then pass vaccine mandates that they want to do, right? And so there's this pull back and forth within our government and within the political that, you know, threatening within their own, you know, tribes, trying to figure out, you know, what to do, and threats of, you know, shutting down the country and shutting down the government if you don't give us what we want, or we're not going to agree to this, and bringing this whole drama of you know, this disease and this virus into play with these other decisions that need to be made, right? So I think government overreach is going to continue to happen. I think that interstate travel restrictions are going to happen. They've already been kind of warming us up to that is on the agenda, and that the plan is to shut down interstate travel. Now, there are some rumblings that this could go farther than that this could that it could be a border thing, right? Some sort of border crossing between states, but essentially that's what that is to an extent when they say they're going to shut down the interstates, as far as, hey, if you're not medicated, you can't utilize the interstates. Now, what this means for you and what this means for, you know, our economy is you're talking about truck drivers that can't do their jobs, that get fired because they can't do this. You talk about people traveling, people own homes in different states, and being able to have the ability to travel quickly to those states. You have people who live in certain states but work in other states, people that cross lines every single day to travel for work. And so what this means is they would shut down interstate. Now, I don't know if this would just pertain to truck drivers. Is this going to pertain to everybody? But, you know, obviously what that's going to do is put a strain on all the back roads, all the highways, and the different things. And then how far does it go? You know, do we get to the point where, you know, if the state owns roads or has the authority over other roads, and then the federal government starts denying them money, like, hey, if you don't do the same thing for these back roads and these other roads, we're going to deny you money. Like, how far does that go? How far does that overreach go? So what I would prepare for is something in the lines, though, of the interstates, because they're already putting that out there on the streets to us, that is the intent. All right. With that too, the other thing being discussed is airline travel, and people advising that, the White House says, hey, and puts out to the people a mandate of, hey, if you're not medicated, you can't fly. Now, I can understand this to an extent, right? Depending on how bad things really get. It's one thing, though, to do it when there's no facts or data behind it proving that there's really something to be concerned about. Everybody getting this thing is not concerning. Everybody dying, of course, from it would be concerning, but those numbers are so low. Now, the way they're pushing this, they are pushing it as if those numbers are expected to go up and this is going to be a whole other animal, but that's not the information that we're getting from other countries that are actually dealing with this much longer than we are. So we'll see, but there's rumblings that there'll be mandates for airline travel, international and domestic. Already and earlier, we've already dealt with, hey, you've got to show, some sort of passport to travel, or you have to show, not passport, but show that you've been either medicated or that you have a test. And so most people have been okay with, hey, if they want to travel, they understand, they'll show that they have, a negative test, and then that's it. And therefore, you kind of give somebody, there's still a little bit of wiggle room and freedom with that. You don't have to do something. But if there's mandates saying that you must or you won't travel, that's a big deal, okay? Because again, you have folks that have family members in different states, different things. You have people who travel a lot for work. So you might have somebody who wasn't mandated for their work to, hey, you must be medicated in order to work. But now if you put that ban on domestic airlines, imagine now that person who flies to all types of different states for their job and now can't do that function, okay? So just to make you think outside the box, how this stuff affects, affects people, everyday people that are trying to get around and do things. Another thing that I think that you're going to see is lockdowns. I know nobody wants to hear that. I don't know that we're going to see it in the traditional way of people saying, hey, you must stay home. I think that certain states might get to a point where they'll get to the point where they're putting that out, like, hey, you have to stay home except for, your essential stuff. But I think the majority of the country won't see that, and it's not going to do that. However, I think that fear lockdown is a different thing. If you scare people enough, they will lock themselves down, okay? If you are putting out on the news that this is dangerous and everybody's getting it, and even if you're medicated, you must, there's a possibility you're gonna get this, and there's this fear factor. And then let me tell you, if these hospitals start filling up crazy, and not so much that, but people, if the news starts talking about all these people are passing away and dying, that's going to be huge. And that fear alone is going to make people say, okay, we're going to stay home. And so that is a sense of lockdown, okay? A mental lockdown where you're so fearful of what you're being told that you're like, okay, we're going to stay home, okay? Another thing I think you're going to see is, because of that, you're going to see people, more people going out to be medicated because of fear, right? If you are portraying that something is so dangerous and much dangerous than it was before, naturally people get fearful. It's just like in other countries where they started making it mandated that everybody will get this or you will be fined, crazy fines, right? Those countries did, and then had droves of people who went to go get, medicated because of that fear that, I don't have the money to be fined. And then how many times you're going to find me? And then maybe you're going to throw me into a camp, like just craziness. And so that fear drives people to do stuff like, I'm just going to finally do it. It's just like the fear of people not being able to put food on their table. And you had folks that made the decision that they were going to go ahead and get medicated because that was a better choice for them and their family, vice being fired and not having a job. Okay. So that fear is a super, fear leads to action. So if they scare people, that is going to cause a lot of people to go ahead that maybe weren't doing it before and go ahead and push forward with getting medicated, you guys. Next thing I have is I think we're going to see a huge push for children. I think that this, and it's going to be on the media. They're going to push it hard. Children. They already are in a lot of ways. I think you have to be very, very careful where, and not leaving your children alone. And, but there's going to be a huge push for children, and they're going to do that in any way that they can affect it with daycares and funding and schools and all of that stuff. Okay. So, there might be some hard decisions that you got to make in regards to keeping your family safe. But I think that we are going to see, if they continue, okay, we might not see this stuff, you guys, if they all of a sudden stop. But if they continue to go down the path that they're going, as far as ramping up, that this is just huge, right? And this is scary, that's where you're going to start seeing this other stuff come into play, you guys. And then, of course, I think more violence. We already are seeing violence. I laugh because the stuff we're seeing is just crazy, okay? People are just, smash and grabs are off the chain right now. I mean, off the chain. And this needs to be alarming to you because although, hey, it's kind of funny, like, oh my gosh, all these smash and grabs and whatever, right? It's not really like at home, but baby, like, it's just a matter of time before, hey, a smash and grab of a house might be safer than, a well-lit, downtown bougie store that the, cops are doing patrols on all the time, right? So you just really got to be careful about your own security, and as things ramp up, protecting your home. Okay, so now these last three, you guys, that was 7. These last 3 are kind of scary. And I know there's going to be people in the comments like, you're crazy. That stuff will never happen here. There's no way. And you're right. I think that if these things happened or start to happen, that will be that will be the turning point that makes, a very large majority speak out. Okay. And that, I'm not sure that these are things that could happen here. They are things that are happening though in the world, you guys, to other countries. Other countries are doing this. I just don't know that it could actually get that far here without major outbreak of, protest and speaking up and all of that. So the first one I have is rationing of food, so ration cards and or food passports, meaning you cannot go into a grocery store. I'm not talking about restaurants, you guys, because even restaurants now, for example, in LA County, you could still get your food to go, right? Or have it delivered. But I'm talking about bona fide grocery stores requiring some kind of proof that you have been medicated before you can enter the store and buy groceries. Okay. That is a concern. There is countries that are doing that right now. And so it is a concern that we could get to that point, or some sort of, our supply chain actually breaks. They use that as a time to employ ration cards of some sort, but then the ration cards would of course be married together with, some sort of passport showing that you've been medicated or not, right? And so I just think it's horrible. I think that total outbreak would happen of violence and protest if something like this came to us, but it's something to keep, you need to pay attention. Okay. You need to be paying attention to what is happening and what is being put out there as, supposed fixes for what's going on with us. Okay. Next thing is camps. There's countries right now that have camps. It's already written into our, the FEMA world, right? And our emergency preparedness and how we view that as a country, that is already written out, okay? And if it is deemed that it is unsafe for the general population, for you, and you are endangering people, it's already written into the government, and policies that they can just turn that on and start sending us to camps. Okay. So again, that level is extreme when you talk about our country here, but that is happening in other places, and that is written into our policies here. And so you have to be very careful about just saying, well, that could never happen. Maybe, okay? You just never know what could happen, okay? If it's written in there that believes that they believe it could happen and that they are prepared for it, all right? And the next thing is mandatory medication, right? Like other countries are doing, where they're saying, hey, this is not an option anymore. They're basically telling their people that you will be medicated. It's against the law if you are not. You literally become a criminal overnight, that you have to. And then right now, it's fines. It's like $4,000 fines. And there's no like, okay, so what does that mean? You just pay a fine one time and then you're good? Or is it like, hey, you paid the fine, then 3 months later, oh yeah, you're still not, okay, here's another fine. Like, you can't live like that. Nobody is made of money like that. So again, I know people are like, we'll never see that. And I pray to God, we never get that. This stuff right now does not get this far. But I think that we started to really get back to kind of some sort of normalcy, kind of, at least in the realm of that, right? People were still talking about it, but our numbers are so good. And then now it's like a full ramp up again, a full ramp up, and it's scary. So what can you do? Like, how do you prepare for this? I think that you continue to get the things, obviously. I think you continue to get your house in order, fortify your home, get your pandemic preps, right? Get your cleaners, get your food, water. I think that you get your backup plans for different things, right? If you have children that are in public schools, I think that you should have your backups ready to go as far as what you're going to do. If you have kids in daycare, I think you should have backups. Basically, anything that is going well right now, I think you should have backups. If you're not medicated, I think you should be careful about what's your backups for medical care. All of this stuff matters. We talked about this a while ago, but because stuff has kind of simmered down a little bit, we haven't really been talking about it. I have personally been warning in the last couple of weeks that I was thinking there was going to be a ramp up because of China and China's response recently to, the virus. Okay. And so it was very sus, right? And so my radar was already kind of peaked, like, hey, something's coming. And then what do you know? This garbage has hit the deck. Okay. I think that you should be ready to make hard answers. I think you should have and know what you're going to do, right? These mandates, taking stuff away from us, that overreach, I don't think that's going to stop. And so, like, for me, for example, I get VA and I get retirement. I have to be ready to answer the question the day that they say, hey, no, you will be medicated or we're taking that away. I have to be ready to give my answer, you guys. And that's hardcore, okay? You have to be ready to make the decision if you're going to, the day that it's medicated, what's going to be, if it's mandated, what would your question be? What would your answer be, okay? You have to know what you're going to do. Traveling, okay? We're about to move, right? In like less than 30 days, and if they come out with some kind of interstate, we already have contingencies of how we're going to get home. You have to have contingencies of how you're going to travel and get home possibly, so you don't get stuck somewhere. Okay. What back roads, map out your other options. Any kind of traveling that you need to do now as far as flights and things like that. I mean, you need to do that stuff now before that's not an option anymore. Okay. Listen, I know a lot of people are like, this is not going to get this crazy, but stuff has already happened that we said wasn't going to happen or that we weren't going to stand for. And yet it's still happening. And, there's nothing out here to just trust, you guys. Even me, I'm just some chick babbling on the internet on my crazy thoughts of what I think this new variant means to us and things that we might see come down the pipeline because of it. Okay. So keep your head on a swivel, keep paying attention, keep researching, keep looking and listening to what is going on around you so that you can make quick decisions and get ahead of stuff in any way that you can. Okay. And I will see you guys tomorrow on the next video. Take care. Bye.